chapter 1, but definitely we'll just go through a glimpse of what has been done. The idea of this whole series is to make you logically understand that what goes under the hood. Basically, the underlying problem of operating system and architectures are no more a big deal for the people. But sometimes it happens, like recently with the Log4j, you must have heard of it, right? So the whole world has shaken out. And I think in every company, there are some kind of auditing going on for the Log4j and what is the vulnerability and all kind of things like. And I remember the similar kind of thing happened into the processor level some years before when Google meltdown have came, right? So if you remember, they had kind of not so guaranteed POC, but they said like all the processors can be broken out with the Google meltdown and all these kind of things. Okay, better to know that what is sitting down to you. Better to know that. I'm Vaibhav. I work in Java platforms team, and we already had like 2 presentation related to the automated memory management, and this is going to be. Basically, I should have written chapter 3, but that's fine. Okay, a quick recap. We have learned into the last time that why we need automated memory management. And in one line, I can say your automated memory management is the best deal that is for the memory management. It's good that some piece of code is written and let it handle your memory rather than you keep handling it every time into the code. Okay. In terms of the time complexity also, and in terms of the risk that you are going to put some kind of leak into the memory. We discussed the algorithmic complexity of few of the automated memory management algorithms like referential count and mark and sweep. And we saw that few of the algorithms like referential count and all fails, and it fails badly on things like if there is a cyclic loop. And finally, we were on the verge of that, where we saw that, okay, this is how the garbage collector can work. But is it possible that when garbage collector works, our application can also work? Is it possible, or it is not possible? Or it is like the garbage collector, when it works and it do a lot of kind of play into the memory, it is very important that we should stop the application, or what we technically say, it says stop the world event. And we came out with few problems that it is problem when GC and application runs together, because it is like one is creating the object, or one is changing the object, and another is destroying the object, right? So it's like you reach to a level of inconsistency. So from the last point, we will start today, and we will see that how we can have a reduced pause time, and what are the tricks we can do so that we can let the application run concurrently with the garbage collector. Okay, that is again melts down to the point number 1 only, that we can have a reduced pause time. This we discussed in the last time, but this is an important slide. We have a young generation and we have an old generation, though I think my segregation is not so good. Old memory is much bigger than the young memory in size. You know, the Java XMX is like complete young and old, and there is a different world of meta space. So meta world became now more powerful after Facebook have changed the name. So when you say XMX, it's like the complete young and old. And when you say XMN, that means the young generation. Is it important to have this kind of division? Yes, because we generally still runs the garbage collector with the weak generational hypothesis, which says that most of the object die young. That means if you keep running garbage collector into the young generation, your collection will be much better. And we always have a problem that what will happen if there is a pointer from old generation to young generation. And this is like very rare cases, but things like if you are making a cache, right? So it happens like the main cache object will be like something sitting into the old generation, and you're pointing to some field which is into the young generation. So this kind of references from the old generation to young generation, also we are going to see that how to tackle that. And this graph can tell you that you can see how fast the objects die into the younger generation. Questions you can have anytime, whenever it comes in your mind. And we discussed about the parallel versus concurrent. When all the application threads are running either GC or application, we say that you are running parallelly. And concurrent means when application thread and parallel thread, application threads and the garbage collector threads, or whatever the thread it is, they are running like together. They are running together, right? So then we say it's a concurrent. Okay, so never get confused with all these things. So sometimes we will say parallel GC, sometimes we will say concurrent GC. They both are like totally different. Like it's a different part of the world. So stop the world is not acceptable. We need the garbage collector to run kind of in sync with the application, right? You simply cannot stop the application. So we came off with something, the first algorithm, which is a tricolor marking, right? So I just explained the tricolor marking into the last chapter also, but this is our start point for this. So what tricolor marking happens, that there is a GC root. We discussed already GC root, and from GC roots, which is outside the heap, we will first navigate inside the heap. Okay, so if any object is navigatable from the GC root, that means that object is live, and all the objects which are not live can be claimed to dead. Okay, so objects which are black are already traversed object. The object which are gray are like the traversing objects, and the object which are white, they are non-traversed object. And if the traversal is done and you are still white, that means you are dead. Okay, so GC roots will be black because we started the traversal. Then we will traverse to the first location and we will gray it, and then we'll traverse to next location. We will mark it that black, and we will keep moving till we are not end. So in the end, the scenario is that you will end up with either black objects or you will end up with all the white objects, right? So 04, 07, and 08, like good for the garbage collection. But what we discussed in the tricolor algorithm is not the end of that, because we want to reach to a concurrent phase. Saying that we want to reach to a concurrent phase means we want to reach to a place in the tricolor algorithm where the application can also come and screw up things. Okay, so I had like few example where like if application is coming and trying to change things, can we say application not to change things? No, we cannot just say application, because application is like the master. I mean, garbage collector is just doing like a side work, right? And application is doing main work. So it is possible that you have broken the link from say 02 to 05. And if the link is broken, actually 05 and 06 is eligible for the garbage collector. But what happens, like GC was running and GC have already graded the color of change the color of 05 to gray, right? That means 05 is actually live as per the garbage collector information, right? So what you are doing, you are actually creating a lot of floating garbages, which we discussed in the last time that it will not break the application functionally, but it's not good to have too much of floating garbages lying around. And we also see something called missed marking, which is a bigger problem, which can functionally break the application. Like you are running this, you are traversing this graph, and suddenly application have put a link from say like 03 to 08, whereas the GC have already defined that 04, 07, and 08 is are like eligible for the garbage collector, right? At that point of time, GC have almost finishing their work and 03 linked to the 08, right? So what happens that GC will collect 08, right? But 08 is getting used in your application. So that is like a bigger challenge for us. We cannot break the application functionally, and we cannot go for the null pointer exception, or even it is not a null pointer, it will just go for a segmentation fault, right? At the native level. And this is again like we are moving the pointers, we are changing from one place to another place, and it's a bigger problem. So we are missing the markings. Very much similar example of like last time, but here we are not putting a new reference, we are breaking an old reference and we are putting a new reference, right? So again, same kind of problem. We discussed all these problems. So now we are starting with part 2. So part 2, we will discuss like how to deal with the concurrency, and can we do something with the pause time other than concurrency, right? And in the last class, we have seen that the biggest pause is caused by like marking phase. If marking phase is not in concurrent, marking the complete heap is a bigger overhead. And the second biggest overhead is compaction, because what you do is that whole of the memory will be scattered somewhere into the heap, and now you are trying to put a bigger chunk. You have place if your memory should be in a compact mode, but right now your memory is totally fragmented. You need to compact the whole memory, means you have to change the memory references, and then you have to make place to fit the new object, right? So compaction is again a tremendous time consuming process. And in the last part, maybe in the next section, okay, depends upon that we really want to see or not, we will see that we can come to a place where like we'll say jet, okay, let me not go much into the GC because GC is no more bothering me. Okay. And frankly speaking, we have reached to that point, right? So currently into the GGC, which is like the more advanced garbage collector, it will never give you a pause time more than 1 millisecond. Okay. Doesn't matter what is the size of your application or how much heap you are using. Okay. So it can never give you absolute pause time more than 1 millisecond. And that's like tremendous actually. It's just tremendous. I wish I should have showed you all the phase of the application, and I should have shown you that how these phases were like stop the world before, and how we have taken each phase one by one and try to make that concurrent. So anyway, we will have that discussion today, tomorrow, or someday in the future. Okay. So, and GC, I always say like millions of line of code written into GC just to say that, okay, don't run. I mean, do less work. So let's consider the first problem. This is very important. Please concentrate on this, that how we will deal with markings or floating garbage. Floating garbage, I still told you, not a big problem, but missed markings are much bigger problem. What happens that, what is the problem actually? The problem is the race condition between mutated thread and the GC thread, right? So GC thread is doing something and application thread is also doing something, right? And the data which we are writing are kind of inconsistent state. So what we have to do is that both the threads need to communicate to each other. Okay. And this is very tough because they are running in their sandbox threading. So we bring runtime compilers, or we bring like Java compilers into the picture. Okay. Java runtime compilers, basically C1 and C2. And what we do is that we say that it's fine, let the application run, but whenever the application is going to change something, I will put a mark, or in fact, I will say I'll put a barrier on it. Okay. So you remember our last time discussion. Think like you're cleaning your home. Okay, you are cleaning your home. So the best scenario is that you will tell your kids not to throw anything when I'm cleaning home. Okay, so that's like a stop the world event. Okay, you are totally stopping your kids who are like kind of the main application, definitely in home also. Now, what we are doing is that we are kind of saying our kids that, okay, you can throw some garbage or you can do your work, and we are also cleaning the home. Now, what happens that there is some kind of toy which is important for them to play. We will say, okay, this is garbage. We will just collect it. So it's wrong. Now, what happened with the dealing of this concurrency problem? Whenever a new object is going to come by the application is going to change any reference. Okay, either it's a read or write. We will mark it. And we will tell that we need to revisit you. Okay, so think like I am going to put a cross into the toy whenever they will throw a toy. And that's not only the end. I will have kind of a book system where I will say this toy has entered. So book, you can think like it's like an index, and the index will be pointing to all the new references that are coming or that are getting changed. Okay. In computer science word, or into the operating system on the processor level, we say this called barrier. Okay, barrier is very common thing. You must have learned barrier into your college OS classes, or someone who is from the Linux, you must know things like fencing, right? How you fence the data. So let's see that how we can apply the barrier. Don't get confused like which garbage collector which is uses which barrier. I will take you detail in that later if required. But right now, my whole and the sole idea is that you understand the concept, and understanding the concept means you should just have a picture that if I will do this, hopefully I can get rid of this problem. Okay. So now I am loading a field here. Okay, so there is a load, and in the load there is a return field value. That means I am going to do a read on the field. Now something can go wrong in this field. Someone can change the value of this field, right? So what I am reading is consistent or not is a questionable mark, right? So before changing to this field, what I will do is that I will put a preload barrier, and the load barrier will see that if the garbage collector at this time is running and is running into the the concurrent phase. And if it has not marked the object, okay, I will say that this object can be a old object and just keep adding into a set, which I said remark. Let me explain you this thing again with the home scenario. So the whole idea is that at the marking time, I will let the application run. Okay, I will let the kids throw the garbage or throw the toys. And what I will do, I will clean all the heap, or I will clean all the home, and then I will run a remarking phase or recleaning phase, where the second time my work is very less, because still I am cleaning the home. There may be like 2-3 extra toys they may have thrown here and there. So if I know the exact place where they have thrown it, I will just go and clean it. Okay. And remarking phase, what I will do, I will make it stop the world event. At the remarking phase, I will say, kids, you cannot throw it right now. Okay. So what happened, from a very big stop the world event, I reached to a very, very small stop the world event. Okay. Is that clear? Is this point clear?
Just a point. So when you say stop the world, I think from the application side, I just want to put one point where the stop the world happens. If you are familiar with Elasticsearch or any other Java-based engine, right? For a moment, for one second, 1 minute or something like that, application will not be responsive. So that is what you mean by application stop the world garbage collector, right?
Yes, a stop the world is precisely what you said. A stop the world means application threads will not work. And if you are onto a kind of a user experience application thread, you can see a hung. Okay, you can see like no response or a hung kind of condition. This hung can be maybe a millisecond or a second, so you may not be able to, figure it out. But it's a total hung actually. Okay, what actually happens when you do stop the world event is that all the threads, okay, how many times you have seen in Linux environment or even on Windows that you have pressed the Control-C and the application has not came out? Have any one of you noticed it? Like, Control-C can kill the application immediately, right? Control-C or control break, whatever you press, okay, or even kill -9, whatever you press, and you have seen that application have not came out immediately. Have any one of you have noticed that?
Yep, sometimes it takes a while.
Sometimes you have seen, right? And you may be seeing these things more recently, okay? Because what happens that when application threads are running, they are into an inconsistent state, okay? Say like I am initializing a data of million element array. Now this million element array data initialization will just to elaborate it bigger, it takes 2 seconds. Now in that 2 seconds, if you will do Control-C, what will happen? Control-C cannot kill the application, because if Control-C will kill the application, it will let the application or the data to reach in an inconsistent state. Okay. So when you say stop the world, that means all the application threads come to a global safe point. Okay, we have a lot of discussion related to safe point also. So they all reach to a global safe point, and then they all say that, okay, guys, there has been an order given to us that we have to stop. Okay, and they all get stopped. And there is a chances that even reaching to the global safe point itself can take time. Okay, in fact, we have many bugs where in the past, like I'm telling you of 10 years before, where the application is not reaching to a global safe point. Okay, and what will happen, that application cannot be either break, or it cannot be even it is neither running nor it can come out of the application. Okay, so you can say it hung. Okay, and it hung badly actually. So that is the meaning of stop the world event. Okay, stop the world event means the threads, the application threads are reaching to a consistent state, and then they are stopped. Is that make sense, Satish?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I will later tell you that this what I told you, global safe point, is no more required now. We deal with something called local safe point, and that works perfectly fine. I mean, you know that people are going in all the nitty and gritties, and like they are trying to reduce as much as pause time as possible. And now we have reached to a place where like global safe point is not required. So we know that this thread is dealing, say thread 1 is only dealing with thread 3, and thread 3 is dealing with thread 5. So if thread 1, thread 3, and
small help. So when you say we have removed it recently, if you can tell us the version number exactly, in this which version number of JDK, which improvement that we can see, very useful.
Very good point. JDK 11, there is a JEP called local thread local handshake. Okay, thread local handshake. Okay, let me see, because most of the guys are techies, they will not feel bad if I'll do Control-C and thread local check JDK ZEP. Yes, so you can see this is JEP 312 and it delivered into JDK 10, like I think JDK 11 we can. And you have seen that it was worked for the GGC, right? So you can see a blocks JEP on the GGC is written there. Okay, the purest idea for you now to understand, I mean, since we are not going into detail into the code, is that you should think like I have to block thread 1, but I cannot block thread 1 because thread 1 is dependent on thread 3. And thread 3 is dependent on thread 4. So now in the local handshake, I will say that find out all the dependency and block those threads only. So thread 1, thread 3, and thread 5 will be blocked. It is not like thread 1 to thread 8 all need to reach to a global safe point. Okay, that is called local handshake. Okay, because other threads are doing totally different work and they are nowhere related in between these 3 threads. So good, keep going, keep running. I am not bothering you, and that makes my application making concurrent because there are still few threads which are doing their job. Okay, so if that point is understood, then again I am just reiterating. Marking phase means you are cleaning your home. Kids are throwing the toys and the dust and the dirt, and you are just keep saving the pointers where the new things had been thrown, and you are just doing a bookkeeping of that, and then you are calling a remarking phase. And the remarking phase, the only new thrown things what you have to do, you have to adjust. Okay, and remarking phase is a stop the world event till the old garbage collector in the new garbage collector event, that is not to stop the world. So it's a right now you understand it's a stop the world event where I will say that no more throwing is possible and let me very fastly clean the new thrown things. Okay, is that clear?
Yes.
Good. So on the code side, you understand that anytime there is a read or a write will happen, what I will do is that I'll put a barrier, and barrier means the JIT compiler, the C1 or the C2 compiler will going to mark you, will going to save your information into a remark set, which is a set. And the same thing is going to happen with write barrier. So write barriers are generally called store barriers, read barriers are generally called load barriers, but load barriers and store barriers word are not very common. But if you will see the code, it will be always load barrier and store barrier. They will never write the word like read barrier and write barrier. So in write barrier, things are little more complicated. I have to put a pre-write barrier and I have to put a post-write barrier. So pre-write barrier is a different kind of algorithm altogether, and post-write barrier is a different algorithm. Pre-write barrier just say that, okay, just save the record before you are doing any change. Okay, just save the information before you are doing any change. Whereas the post barrier say that if you have done the changes and the garbage collector was running concurrently, get that information, extra information saved. So both almost do the same work, but you can think when I will work with a pre-write barrier technology or pre-write barrier algorithm in some garbage collector, I will say like let them do whatever they want to do, and at the very later stage I am going to clean this all work. Okay, I am not going to clean this work now. I have the information stored that what is going wrong where. Okay, I will explain you in detail how this works, but right now I think I am making some sense like how the barrier comes into the picture and how they save us to do the things concurrently. Okay, that is the only takeaway which I want to give you. So this slide will tell you the same thing. Okay, the post-write barrier is an incremental update, which is not a very I will say which is not a very common algorithm in the garbage collector, whereas the pre-write barrier is called snapshot at the beginning. So what we do is that whatever the graph that we are drawing, right, we will let the graph as close as possible to the starting graph. Okay, we know the deviations, we have stored the information of the deviation. Okay, we will take that when it is required. Okay, and you can see that I have put an important point that G1, which is the default garbage collector right now in Java, uses actually pre-write barrier. That means it is uses stab, that is called the snapshot at the beginning. Please, if you are not getting few things, it's perfectly fine, because we really don't have to go into the detail, because just telling you these things without showing you the code or without explaining on a piece of paper, it is not a justifiable thing that you will explain completely. But if you're just understanding the outside surface of the problem, it's perfectly fine. This is for the information, because since we have not discussed any garbage collector right now, okay, we are just discussing the algorithms of the garbage collector. Now someone will ask you that, can you explain me that what you do in CMS or G1? You say what I do in CMS is I do a tricolor marking and a write barrier and incremental update. Means in the write barrier I will do a incremental update is, I think it's a post post write, right? So I do a post write barrier. Someone will ask you what you do in G1. G1, you should say just I do a tricolor marking and I do a pre-write barrier. Okay. Same thing happens in Sarandova, which is like Red Hat. It's a Red Hat garbage collector. And GGC is something which is totally fascinating, where we do tricolor marking and we just do read barrier. Now, this is a total shock for many people that how only handling a read barrier can solve this problem. Where is the write barrier? Okay. So that I will explain you because I have written downside, right? It's used something called die pointer technology and color pointer. Okay. Which nothing to worry about it. The point which I want to say is that all the garbage collectors are just a combination of 2-3 algorithms. Okay. If you know what is tricolor marking, yes, we know what is tricolor marking. If you know what is barriers, I know, okay, there is some read barrier required, there is some write barrier required. If you know this much thing, that means you are knowing a complete garbage collector. Okay. Is it not that we can just have one garbage collector with like the best out of it? There is nothing best in this. Okay. Something can cause a reduction in the pause time, but can give you a bad throughput also. The application performance will also go down. So things like G1, right? So they are somewhere averages out in everything. They will have like not so bad pause time, not so bad throughput. Whereas if you'll go for a very lower pause time, like the GGC, what you will see there is an impact on the throughput also. Okay. Because what you are doing is that you are saying that I am running things concurrently, but application is getting very less time to run. Okay. Though application threads are not going into the total hung state, but it is only like 2 threads or 3 threads of the application which is doing the work. Rest of the threads are doing the garbage collector work. Right. So depends upon what kind of application you are running. If you are running like a e-commerce application, you are running a interface application, you are running a low latency applications where the visualizations are very important. I need to go for a low pause time application. I cannot just tell the user that dude, you're hung. Okay. Whereas I am running say like a banking application or some applications in the background, or kind of heavy server application, kind of parallel data mining application, these kind of applications, we should go for even a little bit of pause time. No one is going to see your pause time, right? So we should definitely try to provide a better throughput to the application rather than thinking of too lower pause time. Is that make sense? I will take a break here and stage is open for the question.
Yeah, what is the difference between incremental update and snapshot?
Yes, I have to go into the detail for that into the later slides, which is into the chapter 3, but I can show you here right now. Incremental update actually works on the post write barrier. So you can see here in this slide, I have put a post write barrier and I have put a pre-write barrier. Pre-write barrier means before doing a write, actually, I should do some modification into the code. So you can literally think that this code is going to convert into a new piece of code. Okay. Into a new smarter piece of the code. So if the new smarter piece of the code is a pre-write barrier and the field, okay, just forget the last line. Where is my markers? Right. So just forget about this line. Okay. So if your code, the new code is a pre-write barrier and the field line, that means it's a incremental update. And if your new code is with the field update and the post write barrier, that is called the snapshot at the beginning. Okay. The deal is that we can handle the concurrency in both the cases. Don't ask me how, like you will ask me a very tough question if I'll start explaining you now. Okay. But in both the cases, we can handle the concurrency, means we can handle the garbage collector and the application thread into concurrent state. And the both have a different technique. Okay. Different technique in terms like when we do the action, means action is sense is very simple. You have to update the things to the right value. Okay. You have to update the garbage collector with the right information that boss application have changed this data. You cannot just go and collect it. You cannot do a garbage collector on this. Okay. So what we generally use in all the garbage collector algorithms is the current scenario, field update and a post write barrier. Okay. Field update and a post write barrier. That is called the snapshot at the beginning. Okay. You have let the things go as it is. Okay. I have not gathered any information before the field is changing. And I will just hold the information after the field has changed and I will do a lot of magical tricks after. Okay. So I know I have not replied your answer, but just for right now. Sorry.
Okay, so in this case, so we even if the object is not modified, we are marking that object per remarking set, right?
No. If your object is not modified, each marked field will not be false. You are seeing I am putting two conditions in the post light barrier, right? Each marked field false. We have to check that. And the garbage collector is into the concurrent phase. Then only we are going to put the value into the remark set.
Means,
Okay.
means when we are updating any value, we are setting the marking on that field. You mean that?
Yes, exactly. So soon you will see like kind of a beautiful or the ugly face of these things. Nothing to worry about it. But I believe that at a surface, I make some sense like how to deal this kind of situation. And this kind of situation we deal at many places, not only in the garbage collector. I can tell you like on the lower level of code, right? And in the processor, we deal out with the barriers at many places. Okay. Right. So anytime anyone will ask you about the garbage collector, just tell that, boss, this is the algorithms which we use to do G1 and you can ask me anything. I'm done. Now, I will deviate you a little bit from the concurrency. Okay, so basic idea to deal with the concurrency is that get all the phases. I mean, we have divided the complete garbage collector algorithm into different phases like route scanning, which you understand now what is the meaning of route scanning, marking, remarking, sweeping. Okay, now you understood that route scanning is stop the world, marking is a concurrent phase, remarking is again the stop the world phase, and sweeping is a concurrent phase, right? So a very small stop the world event at the first, that is scanning the route, and there is a small stop the world event at the remarking phase. Rest everything we are going good with the application threads running. Okay. But now, is there any other way to deal with the pause time? Is there any other way to deal with the pause time? Okay. So what we have seen is the predictability is the game changer. So people are not asking like the pause time can be very low or can be very high, but they are saying that it should be consistent. If you need to guarantee me that my application is not going to pause more than let's take 1 second. Okay. Even in that case, they are happy. I mean, I'm just giving you a very exaggerated example, so that is not true, but just think like that. So they are saying, boss, it's perfectly fine if the application will take a 5 millisecond pause time, but you need to guarantee. Okay, right now the concurrent mark and sweep algorithm what we discussed, can this be guaranteed? No, this cannot be guaranteed, not because of GC route scanning or because of the remarking phase. The problem is much higher on the later side. Like you have totally fragmented your memory, you have cleaned the memory and you have left all the fragmentations. Now a big object is trying to enter into your memory. You really have the place, but since your whole heap is fragmented, you have to do a compaction. And compaction is something which need to be a stop the world event. Okay. Maybe after one chapter, I will change my words, but for right now, you just understand that compaction means you are moving the memory pointers. That means you have to stop the world event. And compacting such a big heap, right? Say like you have a massive heap of say like terabytes. Okay. Now I am compacting the complete heap. It is going to take a massive time. And what will happen when you are calling a full GC, your GC is about to go for the out of memory. And before going to the out of memory, it will say, let's do a compaction, guys. And you are seeing like there is a pause time of like 10 seconds. What is this? Okay. So compaction into these kind of algorithms, the traditional algorithms are actually heap size dependent. That is the biggest problem, right? If your heap will go from terabyte to zettabyte, again, the compaction will take another level of time. Okay. And it's unpredictable. Okay. So can we find out something where we can control the garbage collector threads? We will say like, it's fine. I mean, I want my application to run now. I don't want you to continue. Okay. That is not possible in CMS because you know the heap structure which we showed into the CMS, right? There is a young generation, there is a old generation. Forget about young generation when a compaction is happening into old generation. Like I cannot say that, okay, stop the for loop here. They will do the complete compaction and then only the garbage collector is going to stop, right? So what happened that we came out with some tricky solutions, and the tricky solutions are very simple to understand. But before asking you, can any one of you tell me like how to deal with this solution? Let's have an interactive discussion. Anyone can think of a solution like how we can stop the garbage collector like in between? Any solutions?
Have a semaphore kind of a lock on the object which the garbage collector and the application is trying to use?
When? So say like, Souvik, like you started running a for loop, okay? And that for loop, what it is doing compaction. You are getting my idea.
Mhm.
Now, where to stop it? Is that like, I will say, stop after every 5 milliseconds, or stop after every 2 milliseconds, or stop like whatever the user is giving you?
Yeah, I
You
get
got
your
it.
point. You're saying that what is the basis or what is the logic for stopping? Time based or?
Yeah, think like in your home, it is very simple. Like you are cleaning your home, right? And is it possible that you cleaned your home half, and then the kids are like sitting on your head? They will say, I want to play now, don't eat my head. And you will say, okay guys, I am exiting the cleaning, and they will start playing. Okay, so how you are going to achieve the same kind of logic, or kind of topology, or kind of whatever you say into the garbage collector?
I think room by room we can clean like that.
Very good, Ravindra. Is it Ravindra?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ravindra, you came with very brilliant idea that you just go like room by room cleaning, and you see like the application is becoming too eager. I will say like, let me just clean this room, and then later I will do later part. Very good idea. And anyone else? Yeah, percentage is actually a tough game because you know there are a lot of dynamics. What will happen that probably you will not able to clean anything. If I just say like clean like 25%, and unfortunately your for loop ran for 25%, and there is nothing to do the compaction in that 25%. Okay, so but even percentage is a good idea to apply. But before that, I think the Ravindra idea, we apply both ideas. We apply room by room cleaning, and then we apply percentage. Okay, let me explain you how we do into the garbage collector world. How we do into the garbage collector world, like you now totally forget whatever the structure of the Java heap, which we have seen, right? The old generation, young generation, and all. Still, we deal with the young generation and old generation. But what we do is that we convert the complete heap into small blocks. Okay, that blocks are 1 MB or 2 MB kind of size. Okay, depending upon different kind of things. So think like there are, the whole heap has been broken out into 2 MBs of blocks. Okay, now the garbage collector will run in the blocks. Okay, and somehow magically we find out that which room is more dirty in our home. So we will go to that block, and we will clean that block, and whatever will be the left out, we will move to another block, and we will say, boss, this block is ready for the use. Okay, and say like, if I have cleaned 1 block, 2 block, 3 block, and my the user expected pause time is finishing out. User said 10 millisecond pause time. I am kind of reaching to almost 9 millisecond or 8 millisecond. I will tell, it's good. I can stop the garbage collector. I have given something back to these guys. Let the application run. Okay. Now this all sounds maybe very simple or very complex. I don't know, but it's complex actually. It's complex. So here there are two beautiful things which we do. We do block-wise cleaning, and we can stop the garbage collector at particular block cleaning. And second thing is that we know that which block is going to give you more garbages. Means which block, if I'll clean, it will be beneficial for me. Okay, so say like there is a block 1 where 95% are garbage, and there is a block 2 where like 70% is the garbage. Somehow I will explain you. We know that this is the situation. I will clean the 95% of the first block. I will put the 5% to somewhere else. Okay, and I will tell this block is good to go for the next allocation to the garbage. Okay, is my pause time over? Yes, my pause time over. Application, go ahead and start running. So ideology is very simple to what we do into the home cleaning, but let's understand. Okay.
One question.
Mm-hmm.
I have a doubt.
So there could be possibility, like suppose that 1 millisecond time is there, and that time is not that much enough to clean that particular segment or room. It is possible.
Yes, Ravindra. So what your question is actually is precisely called the promotion failure in the garbage collector. Okay, I have a slide for that. What promotion failure happens? It is not like our promotion failures, which happens all the time. What happens is that if your garbage is more faster than your actual object allocation, right? Then you are a gone case. Okay. So think like I am creating a garbage which is on a very high rate. Okay. And I have put like say like 1 millisecond or 2 millisecond. We have put a like some very unexceptional pause time. We said like clean my garbage collector. I mean, I will let GC run only for 2 milliseconds, whereas I am creating a massive garbage. Okay. So what will happen at one point of time, your application will hang or it will go out of memory because it cannot keep up the pace faster as per your application. And you will be glad to hear that we have a solution for that only.
Okay.
Also, okay. I will show you that we do some kind of, it's called a card marking, where we will say that if the card marking is reaching to the red range, that means the garbage is more and we are like doing slower. We will tell now it's the application duty to clean the garbage. It's not the garbage collector duty. So what we will do, we will make some of the application threads slow. I will show you how it works. Okay. Hope I have.
Vaibhav,
Mhm.
one question here. Okay, so
Please.
how is this done first? Okay, probably did I miss something that all those unused objects which do not have references, will they be co-located? Will they be, first of all, does this thing happen first before the cleaning is even thought about?
So, Pramal, what you are asking is that, are you asking about the compaction or you are asking about the cleaning?
I'm asking about, I think probably this comes under compaction, means
Okay.
all those unused objects. Okay, first of all, whether that identification has already happened now before we even think about cleaning.
Yes. So what happened that we have marked all the live objects. Okay, this is how it works. So you have marked all the live objects. Okay.
Okay.
And whatever the objects which are not marked as a live object, we will say we can clean them.
Fine. Okay, yeah, that has already happened. Okay, fine.
Yes. So now let me take you to my G1 presentation, which is a different presentation I did sometime before. Sorry, I missed the PPT of this. So, but still. So the JDK 9, we introduced something called garbage first algorithm. There are a lot of people who are happy with the CMS. And the reason is, again, everything, every region is like, it's like some what is hot at that time. So what was hot at like a decade before was mostly server-side applications. People were running like big server applications. But suddenly, say like into 2010, 2014 timeframes, this e-commerce started booming out, right? And there are a lot of user kind of internet things where like users started interacting with the applications directly, right? And then what happens that we really cannot afford to have a lot of pause time, right? So latency is reducing. We have started making very low latency applications, right? So little bit of pause time can be visible or can be seen or can make your user move from one application or one tab to another tab, right? So so much of options are available, like, oh, I am running a Flipkart. Man, this is not loading. I just did like sort by price and sort by price. Oh, it is loading. Let me open Amazon till that time. Okay, Amazon, this thing is available. Okay, people will even forget that they have Flipkart tab open also, right? So they will just move out and they will just finish their orders. Okay, so the application era moved to a scenario where the pause time became a big thing, right? And the predictable pause time becomes a utter emergency for the Java to sustain or to survive. So G1 came into like JDK 9 timeframe, which is even it is G1 is into JDK 8, 7, and 6. At the 6th time, we started working on this, and at the 9th time, we delivered, right? So you can think like someone is pushing the code for like 8-9 years, and they are saying still things are not ready. So you can think the amount of code has been written back to it. So G1 comes with a low latency and it is a predictable garbage collector. The most important point of G1 is a predictable garbage. It is still not 100% predictable garbage collector, but it works if you are going to say that pause time equal to 20 milliseconds. Now, I think someone have asked the question that what will happen if I'll give a pause time of 1 millisecond? Then G1 cannot be predictable. Okay. I mean, you should know your application size. You should know that how much garbage you are creating. And as per that, your pause time should be there, right? So you can fall into like 90 percentile or 95 percentile or 99.9 percentile. You cannot say that the application will never fall to 100 percentile, right?
Yeah, so, there's a smart doubt here. When you say you mentioned the time, right? See, I'm just considering some of the application requirements. For example, when we are running in retail fabric, we know for sure that midnight, 12 o'clock, there will be less number of traffic. So can we also say that it should take 20 seconds, but it should take only within the time? Maybe I'm asking something. But Will that also be possible with GC?
Yes, Satish, that's a very good question. That you are saying the application pause should dependent upon the load on the application, right? This is what you mean.
Yes, in a way.
Yes.
To be more precise, we even know that okay, application will be not be loaded in Sundays, Saturdays, 9 to 12 o'clock.
Right. Yes. Your point is beautifully taken, and you know that there are still a lot of tricks and tips that people apply basically into the share market kind of applications, or even into the e-commerce, that they kind of precisely know that when they want their garbage collector to clean. I mean, they precisely know when the application should go for a full GC. Okay, so they can tune their heap size and few of the parameters so that the application can go for a pause on some kind of very odd time. I mean, when there is not much load on the application. Okay, and I think that was your question, right? So even there are many applications I have seen who tunes like their garbage collector actually works on Saturday, Sunday only. Okay, a lot of tweaking is happens in this area, right? Lot of tweaking is happens, but unfortunately or fortunately, we have reached to a stage where like these tweakings are not required. So I am still reached to like 2013-14 time era of when I'm talking of G1. G1 started at 2006-07. And I told you that in 13-14, we told like your production ready, and we are to 2021, right? So when I will come to the garbage collector, which are like came into picture at 2018 or 19 or 20s, you will think like, man, why I have spent so much time in learning this? This is all like not required for me. Okay. So,
one thing that I'm confused with, I know that in the latest Java version, they are going to remove the finalize but I remember when I wrote application, I'm talking about 10 years before, we used to override finalize in many of our core classes, and we manually make our individual instance variable equal to null or something like that. We will be thinking that by doing that, we will be getting really super duper performance actually. The current area.
Yes. And your thinking was right at that time, because when you do finalize from your side by doing a explicit null value assigning, you actually saves a lot of the garbage collector work. So this all were like into the history, but in the history, these all things used to hold good, and a lot of people kind of like they used to enjoy around it. Not required anymore. Okay, soon we are coming. In just like maybe the next chapter, I will explain you like where you don't need even generational garbage collector. We really don't believe on young generation and old generation that keep running garbage collector, because now the garbage collector is taking so less time that we really don't want that generational division and all those kind of bullshit. And there are very short pauses. Many firms started already claiming their garbage collector as pauseless. So I asked them that, what do you mean by pauseless, man? So they told it's less pause. I told no, the word is not right. But they claim it as a pauseless garbage collector, which means like it pauses into milliseconds or even nanoseconds now. But those all tricks which you are saying, Satish, used to hold good. And still, if you will go onto the internet and you look, there will be thousands of papers where they will tell you like how you should write an application which will be garbage collector friendly, and how you should tweak your code so that the full GC will not happen and pause times will not happen. But unfortunately, you don't need those things now. I mean, either unfortunate or fortunate. I mean, I know a lot of people used to be busy in this work, but no more it's required.
I have one question.
Yeah, Girish,
is it possible to kind of, does Java give this provision of like notify when a GC is happening, so that say they could even potentially do something like a stop the world GC, but I could let my load balancer know that, okay, this particular node or instance is busy on GC, let's not route traffic to it. I can load the remaining VMs or something. So just contemplating, I know this is a little bit just a thought, right? How can I let GC work in a particular way? Maybe I'll stop the world also, but still not sacrifice customer throughput.
You want to put a hook on the garbage collector?
Kind of, yes. Can we notify?
GC is something which is sandbox inside the JVM. So we have like a lot of tools, incident analysis tools, where like they can give you the information. But GC events are not a periodic events. Okay, GC events are not a periodic events, and there are many GC events. Okay, so I have just told you few GC events like minor GC, major GC, full GC. There is piggybacking GC, and then there are a lot of other GC events that happen. Okay. I personally feel that if GC will give that information to you and you will do some balance loading, that will be like kind of a overburden. Is it not so? I mean, anyone from that background can explain me that. Is it not a overkill to have this? Because these things are like purely computational work, right? So they are
No. Vaibhav, I think if I understand Girish's question, this question is very valid. See, in a real-time environment, we will not be having one server. We will be having, say, for example, tens of hundreds of servers. In that case, all are variant servers. Not everybody is going to run GC at the same time, right? So, for example, if I am running a GC, if I can throw an event like that, I am running a GC. He can then intelligently do some calculations where he can hide that server for that particular period of time, so that the customer's traffic will not get into that server for that period of time. Is that your question, Girish?
Yeah, exactly.
So you are going to move on some other
It is.
server, right? Right? Is it not so?
No,
Like
we don't
you
need to,
have a
because
pool of-
if we can publish an event, the load balancer will intelligently do. Only thing is that from GC we need to inform the load balancer saying that, but I'm doing GC, you can route the traffic to somebody else.
Yeah, a little bit of advance warning saying that, okay, I'm going to start a GC on this particular node or this particular VM at this point in time. So maybe 1 or 2 seconds before that, we stop sending for the traffic on there. Just talk,
Uh-huh.
while talk perhaps.
Okay,
but
this
yes,
is
this
a
not-
good thought even for me, because what I felt like either a load balancer or a multi-tenancy cannot be like as faster as a garbage collector, right? So even when you are doing a load balancer, it's going to take some time, no? I know that switching is very fast possible, but do you think it is possible faster than the garbage collector will collect the data? I mean, we are
Yeah,
talking
that's it.
about the milliseconds.
It's not like that. So what that is actually free. That switching rate, it will happen seamlessly. Only thing is that in that case, we can even leverage, even if it takes milliseconds, right? For those who, I mean, for some applications, even if millisecond is considered, they can leverage this feature. A small change here will help a lot of prediction from the load balancer. That's why it is very, very valid. In fact, I can relate that. It's a very useful feature.
Okay. Okay.
Satish, here I have one point here. Currently, it's not working like that. Take an example. We are running application either WebLogic or Tomcat. If you are coming to the load balancer environment, so by that time itself, my application is heavy, or number of requests we are passing into that particular server, it's kind of heavy. Then automatically we are doing load balancing, right? So by that time itself, my server knows, right? Suppose take an example, in my Tomcat, I have 2000 requests. 2 Tomcat servers are there. I configured as a load balancer. One is become heavy, so the networking over NGNX intelligently identify and it will passing to other, right? So how it will be helping here? Just I want to understand. So if we are putting one more button onto the JVM to do the garbage collector and all, already we have that kind of facility, right here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why we need to add one more hook there?
Yeah, so part of the deviation here, we'll quickly finish and go. Very simple actually. So if I understand Girish's question correctly, this requirement comes after the container orchestration age. Now we are running most of our Java application in containers, either Kubernetes or in Docker, where they will expect certain health endpoints. If I understand correctly, Girish. Okay. So they operate on health endpoints. If we can provide certain information, those guys can do a lot of optimization for us. So if we can get that, okay, we are running GC. Currently, it's suppose I'm running the application, I'm starting the application, I started the application, it's all that I can send across to the load balancer. If I can get an additional dimension about GC also, it will be easier for Kubernetes or Docker to orchestrate the overall infrastructure effectively. That's what we need to
Yeah, exactly.
No, is it not, Satish, that you know that your heap is going to full? Actually, you are like hitting the 80% or 85% of the heap, and maybe a major GC is going to come into the picture, and the heap information, with the heap information, is it not that you can do the load balancing?
Yes, that is how it is currently done. That is how it is currently done. We check for the heap, the CPU, everything. So this is just an additional dimension.
That's perfectly fine, I think, right? Because in place of doing a postmortem, you are like into the pre-mortem phase, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
And one
Yeah,
point,
so you kind of can define a liveness probe URL in such a way that it takes this into account and say that, okay, this is not going to be live for maybe some time.
G1, what we said that please don't set like lot of unnecessary parameters. And now with the new garbage collectors like GGC and all, we said that don't even set one parameter. Okay. I mean, Java ergonomics are good enough to figure it out your application, and it can tune the garbage collector as per your application. So this parameter setting and I mean, I used to see like people used to write like kind of a big TXT file where they were just setting all the parameters. Okay, and very happy about it. And in fact, I remember one of my friend, when his heap will be like 80% more, he used to get a SMS on his mobile. So I was like shocked. Wow, man, what a technology this is. Okay, so those things are there actually. So coming on to the point, G1 is actually predictable. Yeah, not like real-time operating system. It is kind of a okay predictable, and it is easy to use, and you just have to say like use G1 GC in, if you are before JDK 9, like you are in JDK 8, 7 or 6, you have to explicitly pass this parameter. If you're JDK 9 and forward, it is by default. Okay. And again, I have clearly said that you should be very careful with your greedy throughput desires. You want your application to give a good throughput also. You want your application not to get paused also. Everything is not possible, right? Be very careful about it. Okay. Else you are going to see a lot of garbage collector faults, which will be keep occurring very continuously in your application. And this is how the memory layout looks for the garbage first, that is G1, where still we go with big generational hypothesis. We say that old generation, young generation. Here we have introduced something called humongous generation. Humongous generations are again nice thing, where big objects are going. We will say like just go and put this all big object at one place. Say like these blocks are like 1 MB. Okay. And you are going and putting some object of say like 3 MB of size, or say 4 MB of size. So what I will do, I will join all the 4 blocks, which is like, it takes 0 time for me because it's all a logical blocks. And I will put all the stuff into a humongous region, and I will say garbage collector that let's not do much work into this region. Because if someone is creating an object of 4 MB and like he will say that in next 1 second, this object is done, I need to garbage collect, then you are like totally insane in writing your application. So if you are creating a humongous object, we believe that it's going to be for the longer time. The old generation, young generation, survivor state, same like older stuff. And you can definitely, by default, it go for the 1 MB size. You can definitely set like G1 heap region size. So you can say 2 MB or 4 MB or whatever the block size you want to work. Idea is very simple. Okay, there is a trick. Let me explain you. Now in the young generation, what happens that from the GC root, I am seeing like there is a first block and there is a second block. So there is a pointer from GC root to the first block. So to the second block, sorry. And in first block, few things are pointing to themselves, like O1 is pointing to O3 and O2 is pointing to O3, but there is nothing pointing from GC root. So can we clean the first block? Any idea? I mean, there is nothing getting pointed from the GC root. So we are good to clean that block. Any suggestion?
Like yes.
Looks like that. Any other complication?
No.
No complication. Do you think other than GC root, someone else can point it?
No, we can't. First,
We
we
can't?
can't delete.
Application thread as well can find to this.
Please come up again.
Muted thread or something. Do you mean the muted thread you have to do?
Oh, no. Let's not worry about the muted thread, because we are doing the root scanning. Root scanning is stop the world event. So right now there is no mutated thread that will come. But how about having a pointer from old generation? Is it not that an old generation guy can point to the young generation? Possible, right? I mean, we have studied that it is less possible, but it is possible, right? So it is not so simple. You cannot just simply clean it. So GC root can point it, or a old generation guy can also point it. And since I am just doing the young generation analysis, I really cannot see that who is from the old generation and pointing. If I have to go and find it out that, then I have to scan the whole old generation also, which is going to be overhead for me.
So GC root will only take care for the young, or it will also take care for the old?
GC root is out of the heap. So sorry if you have missed the last session. GC roots are those objects which are outside the heap, and from outside the heap they get the pointer inside the heap. Okay, they are like kind of our public static void main, which is like the start point of garbage collector scanning. So you understood the complication. Yeah, sorry.
So basically you're saying that we are only looking at the young generation.
we don't see any pointers from GC root, but from an old generation, there might be a pointer to the young generation.
Exactly. And
And
you are not
we
in a
don't want
position to scan the older generation. Correct.
Yeah, we don't want to scan old generation.
Exactly. Right. So when you are saying young generation root, or when you say in technical term, we say minor GC means you are just cleaning young generation. That means I cannot go to the old generation and I can scan it, right? So hopefully the idea is clear, right? So
But the object in old generation would still have a GC root which points to it. So
it don't have GC root. So let's not confuse with GC root. So again, let me iterate it, because we have studied it in the last session. So GC root is a totally non-heap objects. Okay.
got it.
And
My question was, the old object which is pointing to this young object, that would still have a GC root.
that still have a GC root. Exactly. Means that guy is alive. Yes, your point is perfectly right. That old generation guy is alive and it is giving a reference to the young generation. That means maybe I can use this young generation guy also, right? So you cannot say it is dead. It can be used. So what in G1 we do, in G1, every block will have 5% allocated to something called R set. R set is called remembered set. It's a set data structure which actually remembers all the references that is coming from the old generation to the young generation. Okay. So whenever I will have a reference from the older generation to young generation, I will go and I will update the R set and I will save that data. Okay. So I really don't have to go and scan the old generation, but I have that data into my index or into my notebook or whatever you want to call it. Okay. If you are talking technically, then in my, okay. Now, with the GC root, you should also look into the R set, and your R set need to be empty. If my R set is empty and my GC root is not pointing to anything into the young generation block, good to go. You can go and clean it. Okay. But if GC root is not pointing, but there is some entry into the R set, I have to modify the R set also. Okay, you are getting my point. So say like R set is pointing to O4. Sorry, it's yeah, picture. So R set is pointing to O2. Okay, and O2 is pointing to O3. That means O1 and O4 is ready for the garbage collection. So what I have to do, I have to take O2 and O3 out and I have to put to some other block, and then I can say that this block is good to clean. Okay. And not only that, I have to make my updates into the remembered set also. That is the R set. Okay. Can sound complicated, can sound simple. I don't know. Different people perceive in different style, but this is how it is. Okay. These are all simple nitty-gritty, but you can understand this. Now, this I am going to show you. So you understood this concept, right? Now there is a possibility that references are too much from the older generation to young generation. And in fact, someone who have asked me also that when 1 millisecond you gave, right, that too much of the garbage collector is getting generated. I mean, too much of garbage is getting generated. Then what is the way to deal with? Okay. So what we do is that with the remembered set, we have something called dirty card table concept. Okay. It is little bit complicated concept, but let me tell you that if we see that from the old generation to young generation, the pointers are very less, we will clean it. Okay, we will update it. If the numbers are increasing up, we still can control like up to the yellow mark, but the time we will reach to the red card, we will say that it is too much of overhead for the garbage collector to now keep updating all these references. And what we will do, we will slow down the application. We will fetch out the application threads into the work of garbage collector, right? That's why I told you in the initial time, the pause time is not predictable. I mean, we are very close to predictable, but you cannot say like, okay, 10 millisecond means no pause will go more than 10 millisecond. It is possible that 11 millisecond can be seen. Okay. So if too many references are coming from older generation to younger generation and you are into the red region, what you will do, you will take the time from the mutator thread. You will take the time from the application thread. Okay. So this is a simple idea to understand. We have some confinement threads. We have a lot of parameters inside to handle this. Basic idea is to understand that anytime if there is too much of work to be done for the garbage collector in updating the reference or cleaning up the garbage collector, it is going to make your application slow. And it is going to steal some time of your application for the garbage collector to do the work. Okay. Hopefully that idea is fine. Good. Satish, are you around?
Yes, we do.
You
Yeah, we are good, Vaibhav.
you are good. I mean, you understood this ideology.
This is something we have already discussed once as well, the concept of the cards, the colors. in the
Okay,
earlier session.
thanks a lot. If we have discussed already, hopefully it makes sense to the people who are around. So I know that it is little complicated and it is way beyond the complicated. I am showing you like you are just seeing the tip of the iceberg and you are not even touching it. You are just seeing from far. Okay, so if we go to the inside code, it is like more than 40,000 line of code written for all these things, and it's very complicated. G1, as I told you, it is easy to use. You just have to put your pause time. I mean, we will try to respect the pause time. So this parameter, first parameter, says that heap size is 50 M and the pause time I need is 200 milliseconds, right? And as already told and again reiterating, 200 is a soft call. You cannot guarantee that your pause time will not go and hit beyond 20 milliseconds. Okay, which we guarantee into the later modern garbage collector like GGC. GGC, the first idea was that the pause time can never go beyond 10 milliseconds. And now we reach to a place where we say pause time can never go beyond 1 millisecond actually. Heap size, not a matter. Let it be anything. It can be terabyte, gigabyte, whatever it. G1, important to know that there is something called heap occupancy percentage, which is by default 45%. If you will reach to that mark, actually garbage collector will start working. Okay. And G1 do way lot of complicated things like it gives there some of the older generation cleaning to the younger generation, and we say like combined cleaning and lot of other complicated things. Okay, I really don't want to take you into the details. If someone is interested, I can take you. Okay, but what I want to explain you on the higher level is that this is one of the garbage collector which have a good throughput, and it try to respect the pause time as much as possible, right? So if you are kind of not knowing that which garbage collector I should set for my application, G1 is the best. Okay.
G1 is the default, right? As you told it. After JDK9, it's the default.
Please come up again.
After JDK9, G1 is the default, right? We don't need to set that.
Yes, from JDK9. Yeah, not after JDK9. From JDK9, G1 is the default garbage collector. Okay, G1 is kind of a balanced of all the garbage collector. It don't kills the throughput, and it don't even go for the over pause like CMS. CMS is anyway removed from the code now, so you cannot use CMS now. So G1 is in between that. If you know that, yeah, I am running an application where like pause time, no, I cannot allow any pause time, you should go and look for the advanced garbage collectors like GGC. I will not say GGC is advanced and G1 is not advanced, but a lower pause time, very, very lower pause time. Okay. But when you will go for a very lower pause time, you should make sure that you should have a good memory to deal with that. Because most of the time how the lower pause time garbage collector works is that they copy the data, right? And they will like, they just have like how you said, right? Load balancing. So they copy the data somewhere and they try to do some kind of modifications, and they will do a hot swap of the data. Okay, so your memory footprint can go a little higher. And the second thing is that application throughput can go a little bit bad. Okay.
In a simpler sense, shall I understand something like this? G1 is like, no, it's fit for many applications. So even if I have a smaller machine, smaller capacity machine, G1 will still go good. But if I have a high-end machine, then GCC will be good because it will have a lower pause time. At the same time, it will do some heavy operation during that GC operation. Is my understanding correct?
Your understanding is correct. Okay, that is perfectly as per. Recently, I saw a very GC performance analysis. I should say. I should not say.
JVM garbage collector benchmarks report 1912. Go to blog and go to the fourth link.
You got it?
Yeah. Let me bring it here.
Can you send me the link?
Yeah. Give me a sec.
Given. GGC is available in JDK 11, right? Yeah, it is available in JDK 11, and JDK 15 or 16, it became like in production ready.
Just check this. This is the one which I'm talking about.
Ah, perfect. Good man. You can search better than me. I mean, I have opened this 1,000 times, but still I was not able to find it. Sorry. So yeah, he is thankful to Alex Cipale. So let me show you what the whole the page says. The whole page says like he tried different thing. He tried those kind of code where a lot of read barriers will happen. He tried those kind of code where a lot of write barriers will happen. Okay, and then he's trying to see like how is the behavior of the garbage collector, different garbage collectors. Okay, so he first explained the read write barrier. You are like master of all those things now. So burst heap memory allocation. Now what he is doing is that he is like adding a lot of things into the heap, and then it is just available for the garbage collection. Okay. And if you will see the operations per second, I think the Shenandoah and GGC are kind of higher side. Okay. And they tried with a different size in bytes. So that is the, okay. So here you can see GGC has not offered a good throughput in compared to I mean, G1 has not offered a good throughput, right? And the reason is very fine, right? Here you are creating a lot of garbages actually. So G1 is definitely not a very good algorithm for a place where you are creating a lot of good garbage. So if I will just use the annotation and I will try to draw G1, so you should think like this is how the CMS will behave. I mean, CMS will go like this. Can we do freestyle drawing? Yeah. So your CMS will go something like this, and you can think, I'm just telling you about the pause time, and then CMS can go for a bigger pause and then it will go nicely. Okay. And then after some time, what will happen that CMS can go for a bigger pause time. Okay. Whereas if you will see the same thing with the G1, what G1 is doing, G1 is making you happy. Okay. But still it has to do the work. So G1 is mostly like, you can think like this, and then this, and then this, right? So the iteration time the G1 is running will be heavier actually, right? If the garbage collection, if the garbage is too much. So now depends upon you. If you are creating a pause time line, say like, so if you are creating a pause time line, say like here, then you will say CMS is not acceptable. But what is happening in G1 is that you are just hitting lower to your pause time all the time. Okay. So G1 is not very good garbage collector where the garbage creation is very high. I believe that you are getting my point. It's not a good algorithm where the garbage creation is very high, because you just ran it for some time and then you said that I will do it later. Then again your application ran for some time, and now again there is a context switching, and you ran your garbage collector for some time. And then again you said, okay, now I have to run the application. So overall you are getting the idea, right? So that's why in the burst heap memory, the G1 performance have went down. Let's go down. Okay. Now what here it is doing, that it is continuously consuming some heap. It is constantly consuming some heap, right? So till I think it is not going like out of memory. So concurrent mark and sweep, you can see like CMS performance is very good. Because what CMS do, CMS don't run anything till you are not going to go out of memory. You're getting my point, right? Whereas G1 may be running some garbage collector and giving like less operations, where operations per second will reduce if the GC thread will run for the longer. It is simple to understand, right? Whereas you can see that Shenandoah and GGC, like they are like kind of shit actually. So this is the black hole consumption. So you are just consuming some of the memory. Now heap memory bandwidth allocate. I think as a homework, I will tell you to go through this page. Souvik has already posted it into the chat, and you should try to understand that is this behavior looks good, right? Is it behavior look good? So here what we are doing, that we are allocating some memory for some kind of time, and then we are releasing it to after something, or we are creating a lot of temporary memories, kind of that. Okay. So here you can see the G1 performance is exceptionally high in compared to all the garbage collector. Okay. Read write barriers, I think he has added both the read and write barrier. Then again, don't think about epsilon GC. Epsilon GC means there is no GC that runs. Okay. So G1 GC is again here again, because G1 GC works onto the post write barrier, right? So read write barrier, the performance is not good. So you should just see this, and you should see that are you able to understand that why the performance of different garbage collector. Overall, what is important, that different garbage collector behave different at different time. And what is that different thing and different time is your application. So Know your application, know your garbage collector, you are like into the heaven. Okay. You can do any parameter set or any garbage collector set if you know that this is how my application is going to behave. Okay. If my application is allocating memory too fast, and that is the requirement of the application, I should select the garbage collector as per that. Hopefully this makes sense, right? So I will suggest you that go through the complete benchmarking. He has done good work.
Sir, what is the default one in Java 8?
Java 8, the default is parallel garbage collector. Okay. Satish, I will take a break here, right? So I think we are good enough for today.
Yeah. So thanks, Raghu, for the session. Actually, very useful. So the smart thing, next week and next to next week, both are holidays. One is Christmas, another one is New Year. So we need to give a hint about what are we going to cover for the next session and when are.
Yes, and more than that, Satish, I want to have a discussion with you and the team, very small team here, that do you really want to understand the garbage collector into the more detail? Like you are interested in understanding how GGC or Sarandova works, which is like kind of, we say, pauseless garbage collector. Do you really want to go into the algorithms and try to understand that? Or you think like, I know the garbage collector from the top surface, I am good to manage my application with the different garbage collectors, and it's better to learn something else. Okay.
My suggestion, people can pitch in. Actually, the way that we are progressing now makes all the sense, because even though we are going slow, we are going deeper. These kind of garbage collectors are not going to be changed all of a sudden. Right? These are the things that will stay static for longer. Correctly.
Yes.
Okay. So considering that, knowing these foundations, and then when we launch into a case where we need to choose between GCs, right? That is how it will make a lot of sense. And slowly, I'm just personally relating this right now. What you are taking is very, very useful for us to some extent. We cannot escape ourselves saying that we are application developers, we don't need memory. For anyone, I'm just relating after I started with your session. If I'm working with big data, that space, right? Most of my backend database or messaging system itself are JVM based. For example, I can name Elasticsearch, Neo4j, Spark, H2, Apache Ignite, all this latest or greatest tools that we use, they are all JVM based. Knowing little bit of how GC works and why my application flow makes a lot of difference to me. So considering that, I suggest we go with the same route, go in detail about all the GC, what all that we can accommodate, we can accommodate. Something that we will not be able to understand as an application developer, it is completely fair. But this route is what I prefer. People can pitch in and then give their comment.
I agree with Satish, but before I would like to answer one more thing, Vaibhav. So this was the second of the why, because Satish we had applications as related programming. But what was your plan for the third session of the series?
Okay.
Was it more into
the third session was to go more into the algorithm, like I can show you the advanced garbage collector like GGC and different phases of it, and that will make you insane. Like you should understand that we have a phases like say like root scanning, which you understood, say like class loading, right? Now the class loading, how it was non-concurrent and how we made it concurrent. Now say like remarking, today we understood remarking is actually a stop the world event, but how we have made even remarking a concurrent phase now. Okay. So we have like taken all the phase one by one and beaten them to death to make it concurrent. Okay. So in the end, okay. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead. Sorry.
So in the end, you will understand that with all these algorithms, which is like a bunch of algorithm, you have reached to a point where if you select this garbage collector, automatically everything will come to your mind. Like when you will go for your heap allocation or some kind of application writing, you will understand that this code which I am writing may not be suitable for this garbage collector. That is what in the end we want to find it out.
Exactly. Yeah. That is the place where the real value will be actually, because it's not 1% fixed for right?
I think, Vaibhav, you should continue with, because when we see, while as a person starting in the industry, it may not be possible to understand the impact of the code which we write, but as we grow, it is extremely important to know what is the, there's a cost. What is that cost? And to understand that cost, you need to have the fundamentals. So even if people today, at least when I'm writing code, if I remember the 4 steps of root and the second step, which is a concurrent step right now, and the I'm sorry, I'm not remembering all the phases right. But if we remember those at least four at the time of writing a code, then we can make better choices in future. I believe that will make quite a lot of sense.
One more suggestion, we go. So now, even in this sample that the diagram that you showed, right? You showed that in the first garbage collector world, GCC world, I mean, that is CMS world, when the garbage happens, this is the spike. So you told the more that we create garbage, this is the impact. Now, my question is, as a preventive mechanism, how do we make sure that we are creating less garbage? Is there any, can you share your thoughts? How do you make sure you create lesser or no garbage in first place?
Okay, that's a good question, and I will take the question right now. Okay, so on the session side, what we are discussing is that we have the bandwidth to increase our knowledge to little bit more higher to get the complete information of the garbage collection, right? So we should continue for the part 3 also, or part 4. Right?
Satish, I have one more request also. So we are learning all the things. So take an example. Suppose we are implementing Spring Boot application. So where we are setting that JVM arguments, right? There we need to select what kind of garbage collector we are using and this and all. If we have that kind of session also, it will be helpful, right? That is what I am thinking. It is kind of connected dots, what I feel.
Yeah, that I can show. In fact, whatever Vaibu was saying, I'm taking notes. I'm actually slowly incorporating that into the apps. So the idea is, once Vaibu completes the session, the next immediate session, we will see everything in Spring Boot application.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks a lot, Satish. And coming back to your question now, if you will ask me, okay, how you make me excited, let me open some tools. Let me first just run a demo, which is something.
I don't know if Satish's question will cover this or not, but this is something I was thinking of while you were discussing, that if we could, I have seen a bit of garbage collection, the graphs which you're talking about. I was thinking if we could do a I probably have multiple instances of the application and show the garbage collection graph simultaneously based on each GC, like a visual possibility.
Why not? Why not? Why not? This is like a piece of cake. I'll show it to you now only. Okay, so let's I will have like all the, hopefully most of the, I make some folder kind of work actually which is nothing related to work, but so okay, let me show you that I just ran on the JDK 17 swing set 2 demo. Okay, and first of all, this guy should run. Okay, and in parallel, what we will do is on another tab. Oh, I have used it like heavily, this demo. Not so many CD dot dots. If it is more than 3 dot dots, you should better write the absolute path. JMC, good. Yeah, it's not a CD also. It's not a CD. Yeah. Okay, so one is the application running, one is the tool analysis. My applications are, sorry, they are not apps, actually app servers or those kind of things, but that part is left on you guys. So coming to your point, this application is running on JDK 17. What is the garbage collector it is using? Question number 1.
Either VGC or Serendova, either one of them.
Okay, since I work in Oracle, I even don't look for Serendova GC. Okay.
G1, right?
G1 is perfectly right answer. So G1 is a default garbage collector. GGC is not a default garbage collector. Okay. So from JDK 9 onwards till JDK 17, 18, G1 is something which is a perfectly balanced garbage collector. So we don't really play with the default garbage collector. So you can see like it has given you G1 old generation, G1 survivor space. There should be G1 young generation. Okay. So it has given you all the information. In fact, code heap is also there into the information, but let's not go into the code heap. Code heap is some area where we put the JIT compiler code. So okay, don't get confused. So you can see, and let's see the graph of the application here. And garbage collector is going nicely, simply, and there is no garbage collector that has been hit. Let's do some play with around with the application, and let's see if that day I remember that when we were doing this lot of this 2D motion and all. So now you can see the heap spike is much higher, right? And let's do more nasty work with this guy. You can see a GC has been triggered here, right? That is the region that now if I'll go very fast into the GC, collection count is 7. That means 7 times the collection has been done. And the total GC duration is 1 millisecond. And it must be telling you, yeah. Now this is important, GC thread count, like how many GCs are busy into cleaning the work, okay? So don't think like pause time is less, so everything is awesome. If too many threads are involved into GC work, that means there is a hit onto the throughput of the application, okay? So these all parts are very well understood by you all, I understand that. And what I can show you better, 1 second, let me see them. So here you can see the complete picture. Okay, now total collection time is some 40 milliseconds, and the 8 garbage collector count has been went. Is there a way to see the max? Okay, and this is young generation, which is really not a bother. Still no old generation GC has been hit. That means still not GC has been run into a bigger heap. Okay. Do you want me to get this guy run into bigger heap? If so, what I will do is that I will trigger this application with a smaller XMX. How to play now? 10M is, don't say that you are already out of 10M is too less, is it so? Now you are seeing Control C is not working. This also we discussed. Okay, okay. Come out, come out.
Sorry to ask the question again, but I probably missed it. Why was Control C not working?
Because it is not reaching to the safe point.
Okay.
Which one is the application? Which application we were running? Swingset 2, right? So let's get on. Kill -9 is more powerful than that. Let's see if that guy can kill. Okay, good. What we did something. Sorry, this was GMC running, right? So this guy has gone or not? Yeah, this guy has gone. So I just want to put the heap to less actually, to so that application can sustain for some time, and application should go for some of the what you say major GC or full GC, right? So minor GC means young generation, major means old generation, and full means run everywhere. I mean, you are in deep shit. Okay. Now application has less heap. So yeah, application is struggling here. Wow, the graph started with a GC hit only. That's nice.
So eventually every Java application, it's a matter of time, right? Before it hits the full GC. It's always a matter of time. Not like it'll never hit it.
It will never hit. Why? Your application is not leaking. Why it will hit the max heap? I mean, okay, hitting the GC.
Yeah, I mean the full GC. My question is this: that
no. Your application, you have allocated a lot of heap. You have allocated a lot of heap. And if it is just cleaning your young generation and it is finding enough space, it will never go to hit the full GC. Okay. In fact, few of our talks, we say that if you are running a monolithic application and memory is not a big deal for you, never let it hit a full GC. Okay. So that's why I want to show you that now the application can hit a full GC because we have not given the application too much of heap, and we will play around with it. Let it do some 3D manipulations. Hope it is creating some integer objects and all those floating instances and all. And keep watching the graph. Graph is going up, even the processor is going up. So we are heating up the processor.
So basically now with the container world and the microservices world, your
Mhm.
probability of hitting a full GC is even more higher because your containers are smaller in sizes in terms of memory and allocation because there's a cost associated with them, with the image.
I
So
agree
then-
with- Yes. Yes.
Mm.
Hitting the full GC is much higher into the container world, and you need to have a perfect balance because now money is the only important thing for you, right? So you need to have a perfect balance in garbage collector and even allocating heap to the Java, right? Like you
Yes.
want to commit that much only heap. Anyway, in the last time we discussed that if Java will if there is uncommitted heap in the Java will return back to the operating system. That is,
Yes.
we have done
Yeah.
it, but lot of parameters to see. I exactly agree with you. I still feeling like this guy is insanely bad, and it's not going into. Someone have written a good code, I should say,
Or we have given it enough memory to sustain.
or I have given again enough memory. I mean, memory was not that high, right? But okay, let's see. I mean, back to back few garbage collection has happened. Still no old generation. So sorry. I mean, better luck.
Yeah,
with
you had probably hit the sweet spot of
Right.
identifying when it's going to trigger a old generation in the next few minutes.
Correct. Now, Control C work, that is good. And let's move the application to minus XX colon plus use GGC. And hopefully we are on JDK 17. It is production ready, so I don't have to put experimental flags. And GGC may not like giving him some heap. So let's run this application first. And now, ideally, first what we have learned that GGC is not a weak generational hypothesis. Nothing should come like young and old kind of garbage collector. So there should be only one garbage collector. Okay. And let's get back to this connection is lost. Reset the connection. Reset the connection. Go to the memory, and you can see this is just GGC cycles and pause, right? So you cannot really see that older and younger. And GGC pause. Okay, so like this guy pause will be like what? Currently 0. Okay, so this guy will go insane. Heap usage. Nothing will happen to these kind of garbage collector like GGC and all. And I hardly believe that even when they will hit with a, where is the graph? Somehow, let me try to get a garbage collector run.
And then by that definition, with the newer garbage collection algorithms, again, the probability of hitting a full GC also reduces, right? Because I've made it more and more efficient now. Everything is more and more
Now there
comprehensible.
is nothing, I mean, not a big deal like you're hitting a full GC. Okay. Because there is nothing called young generation and old generation. So the whole heap is one, and really the heap size is independent. Okay. So somewhere still the graph has not went down. This is okay. Maybe I need to find out a good application which is like WebLogic server and all kind of application. Okay. So these guys will have like collection time. You can see still it is 0. Okay. So it has not done anything. Okay. So there are a lot of things. Maybe in the diagnostic we will go and give GC histogram that will at least hit once the garbage collector. So let me do execution because it is a save the world, stop the world event, right? You are taking a histogram. That means it has to stop the application and get the data. Then only it can get a consistent data. Okay.
So
Hopefully,
in case if we call system.gc programmatically. So
no, system.gc don't claim that it will stop the garbage collector. It is just we used to use some parameter for the sake of interview, that system.gc. Okay, system.gc have no effect on the garbage collector. You can see, like, even I am doing the histogram, I am not seeing any GC spike, right? So
But histogram is effectively a snapshot of the heap, right? If I'm not wrong.
but still the thing is that garbage collector is not running.
Yeah, which is very unusual, but yeah, because we're taking a histogram, it's taking a snapshot of the heap. So it
Okay,
has to pause and look at everything, and then
I am doing multiple. No. These guys are going insane actually in writing these logics now. So you should just think that nothing happens, no time. Okay, collection time. There is some collection time. We missed something in the data. Can I not make it a small and see?
yeah, there should be a.
There was a use to committed heap. Let me see. Okay, so these are the things to play around, and you can see the CPU is also going nice, and it is not like hitting too much of the CPU. So this is the way you can see your memory and usage and all those kind of funny things. Running big application can make you understand this much better. However, I don't know. In the internal we have a lot of applications, but external world, I will see if the OpenJDK have some code where they really run some big applications and see the JVM uses. Okay, anyway, Satish is going to demonstrate a lot of information. So this is one part you showed me, Souvik, to show, but we like. I was looking for something else, and I was looking for tool called JOverflow, because JOverflow, not JOverflow.
There's an F in beginning.
Sorry, JOverflow tool have a plugin in IntelliJ also.
Okay.
And I am feeling that it has a plugin with JMC also. In fact, my JMC had JOverflow, but I keep changing the JMC. So you can go to the like preferences and tools, and you can download, install plugins, plugins. I'll find it out. So what that JOverflow guy will give you, JOverflow guy will give you a few of the anti-pattern. Okay, let's see here if there is some diagram for the JOverflow. Yeah, so it comes very clumsy like this. In fact, I am not remembering. We have discussed this into one of our talks.
I remember we discussed JMC and JFR, and that is what Faisal was asking for. That do we have a session? We already have a session, Faisal, on the Bangalore Jug. I don't remember JFlow in that session. Maybe.
Okay, yeah, JFlow looks like this. Okay, so let me show you. JOverflow looks like this, and it will tell you the few of the anti-patterns, like where you are spending your most of the objects and heap. This is what I think Satish have asked. So Satish, first of all, we should know our application, and second thing, we should run tools like this. And what these tools will help you out, that like in the first section, let me zoom it out. You can see all objects and sparse arrays, duplicate strings, small collections, empty unused collections, duplicate arrays, like lot of things. It will tell you that where is you are overkilling your application, right?
Yeah.
Now say like yes.
This is the information. Which tool?
Yes, this is called JOverflow. JOverflow have a plugin with JMC for sure. So you just have to click, and the tool, the complete tool will get loaded, and it will show a beautiful picture. Say like you are seeing boxed collection too much, or you are seeing like typecasting is too much. That means in your code, you are kind of creating a lot of garbage where you are just unnecessary keep continuously doing typecasting. You are kind of writing a typecasting in a for loop. So what will happen? It will go from say like int to integer. It will go from say like integer to int, capital integer to int. What will happen? Every time an integer instance will be thrown to the garbage collector, right? So those kind of information will be caught by this tool. So
Vaibhav, you got an interesting point, just to mention that. So by understanding, typecasting is a costly operation. That's what you just mentioned, right?
Typecasting, unnecessary typecasting is a costly operation for the garbage collector. Yes, because you are throwing a lot of garbage and somehow GC have to collect it sometime.
Okay, yeah.
I have one question here. See, JMC is, we are using JMC when we are actually doing a live debugging of the application. But what if I'm doing a, non-live, like I have a heap dump which I'm trying to analyze. So is it possible to plug in JAirflow into that heap dump to get ideas or insights?
Yes. You should just go and say open file and you just give the link of heap dump and it will do the complete analysis of heap dump and show you here.
Okay.
If I should be in my office environment, lot of heap dump should be available with me. At least right now I cannot show you much. Okay. So you just have to go file, open, heap dump or core dump, anything. It will connect that. If you want to connect say like your server machines or something, you should just go to the connect and you should
the MBean based connection.
Yeah, MBeans based connection. You just have to provide the ports to get it connected. Good.
Satish or Vaibhav, now it is out of context, but just I want to know, now they are saying one vulnerability issue, the log4j, because of that one some attacks were happening, and for that one they are disabled that one. What exactly story, like what happened? Just anybody have some idea on that?
Satish, if you want to.
Yeah, Savik, can you answer? I think Savik was the question, otherwise I will give you my answer.
So what I understand is that at the moment log4j supports if you send a request to the server and the server is running on log4j, log4j will receive an HTTP in the HTTP header. If it receives a particular header key and value, it will allow you to do a JNDI lookup. And because you can do a JNDI lookup, it will allow you to execute a remote code on the server. I think there's a great graphic on this. I'll try and find that graphic right now. I have seen it multiple times. I don't have that.
Okay,
I have the graphic available to me, but I don't have the link to the graphic. So I'll try and paste it right now on the chat for everyone.
Let me understand a little bit. JNDI is mostly, JNI will mostly use for database, right? If I don't have a database, in that case, take an example. I have a soap consumer. I am data consumed from the soap only. I don't have a JNDI. In that case, also is possible to attack.
JNDI stands for Java Naming Directory Interface, right? It's not just for.
Okay, that is JNDI. Okay, JNDI. Sorry. yeah.
So in that case, it allows you to execute remote code on your server. I'm trying to find that. I found the image. Give me a minute. It's from Amazon. Amazon has a great image which talks about what is possible. Let me just paste the link for you. Because it's always easier to understand information when it is shared visually. I just pasted the link for everyone to see that Amazon one, which talks about how the attacker will execute the log4j JNDI attack. If it's fine, can I share my screen quickly?
Please. Yes.
Yeah. So this is how